Hey there, everybody. Welcome into Saturday Evening Quarantine, volume number 8. We are through conference play now. We're talking playoffs. Playoffs. I'm David Jackson, along with Hall of Famer Steve Brown. Randy Jackson on the Mass General Store sideline. Steve Brown, 2 episodes into the program, already bailing on the sponsor lid that we still haven't gotten. Is that why you took your hat off, because you're sending it to us for a rotational deal?
Randy already got me in the pre-show banter. But he said he about tackled the mailman looking for his hat.
I thought he stole it.
Oh man, they're gonna have a rebranding campaign going on by the time we get these hats. That's the old logo. Oh man, how are y'all this week?
Doing good. How about you guys?
Doing good. Hanging in there.
Well, now what you got in the glass today? A little
water. Had a little birthday party for the little granddaughter this morning. She turned 2, so
how about that?
Had to go hydration straight water today.
Because you were drinking at her party?
Yeah, was that the deal?
Well, had a couple of bourbons, about 2.
You know what? With those cupcakes, some Blantons.
Oh, God. That's funny.
Cut that.
Oh yeah, I've been editing you for years, brother. I'll get right on that. Wow. Well. In the spirit of bailing on things, I had to bail too. I had to bail on A and B because they haven't come through yet. Danny Wilcox is sending me pictures, everything but our sponsor agreement. So we're going Tropicale from Boonshine. We're breaking out the competition and saying, "Come on, Danny. Are you my friend, Danny?"
Step
How
up.
about that?
Step
I
up.
decided to get off the ales and go to the wine today. Doing a little Sauvignon Blanc.
He came back into the city and had to drink the wine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was going to go with water, but then again, I wasn't at a 2-year-old.
You were. Yeah.
You didn't get the invite.
Yeah, you know what? I noticed that there wasn't any glitter in my mailbox today, so I knew A, I had no hat, and B, I had no invite to the birthday party. Man, tough crowd. So my big news of the week, I got a haircut. As you can see, I was running out of room in the Zoom box. It was getting crowded. I went and got my haircut.
Did the beard get a trim too?
Beard got a trim as well.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way.
We actually talked about how beard trims work in social distance world, and the person that cut my hair was all covered up in the PPE. She had a mask on and gloves and like almost a draped gown kind of deal, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna hold my arm out as far as I can go, but yeah, I'll trim it up." So funny thing was, she starts trimming it, and she's got the little beard trimmer, and I mean, she gets to like right about here, and it's like, and she's like, "I've got to break out the other clippers for this." It's like, I'm sorry, it's like when your hedge trimmer runs out of juice and it just stopped. It was just like, So yeah, it looked like there was a small animal at my feet by the time I got all the beard and the hair trim. It was kind of scary, but anyway, yep. So that was the week up here. Anything of note with you two?
No, not really. Again, it's starting to break loose a little bit. You can tell by the traffic on the roads and stuff. People are starting to get out and about, and some. Of course, you got phase 2 in North Carolina, South Carolina, where we're at this weekend has been opened up a little bit more in the last couple of weeks in North Carolina. So you're starting to see more traffic, more people beating the bushes now.
I've been amazed at going into phase 2, how many restaurants didn't open that kept the delivery curbside thing going, and said that it's almost too difficult to reopen because of the capacity cuts and what it does to them. A friend of mine actually runs a restaurant, and she said that if they do that, it wipes out the whole bar area. They can't seat people at the bar, which is a big thing for them. And it wipes out a whole area where they had tables. And she said it almost doesn't even pay to do that.
Yep. If any of you are coming to Boone anytime soon in the next couple weeks, we got a lot of that going on. I'd say it's probably about 50-50 right now, those that opened and didn't open. And it's not only about space, but it's about hiring as well.
Yeah.
And where is the line that you justify hiring people back to work in an environment that's been lessened that much? So and the catch here too is a lot of the students left. They bailed back in March and April, so we haven't seen that influx back yet. So even if a restaurant or a bunch of restaurants did want to hire people and staff up, they're not here to hire right now. So there were about 4,000 jobs that we lost in the span of about 2 days up here in the restaurant and tourism business, and they are not back yet. But I will say that a number of restaurants are taking longer time because the health health guidance that the state sent out came out about 3 days before phase 2 started, and in order to get that training. Because a lot of people again are hiring from scratch, so they don't have institutional knowledge. They're hiring from straight up. So they have to teach them the ways of the business, then teach them all the new COVID stuff, then get all their stuff reconfigured. So June 1st, I think will be, first of next week, maybe that'll be a spot where you'll see some people start to roll out some, kind of trial run type stuff. And then I know Casa Rustica is opening this weekend up here. Or early next week rather, and it'll slowly start to trickle out. But I think the standards that the restaurants are working with are very, they're just cumbersome. There are a lot of them on the health and safety side, so it takes a little bit of time for everybody to get ramped up. But they'll get there.
I would guess when they get going up there that there'll be a huge influx of people. Just people that I know where I live down the mountain. I mean, they're just dying to go somewhere.
They wear their damn mask. It'd help us out a whole lot up here for sure. But yeah, I mean, up here we've talked with a lot of tourist people and industry experts about travel by car is going to be a big thing this summer. Short, choppy trips. Nobody really wanting to get on an airplane just yet or fly internationally just yet. So that means that if you're in Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, it makes a whole lot of sense to get in the car and come to the high country. I'll put on my chamber hat for a second and just say, hey, treat our community like you treat your own. Help us keep our numbers down. We've got a hospital that serves 3 counties and a healthcare system that has been able to serve us well, and we're just kind of hoping that everybody can abide by the guidelines and help us have a good summer up here and be safe and responsible at the same time. We got so many second homeowners up here that all fall into the category of higher risk, and so there is a higher risk with some of that bouncing around up here. It's not like it is maybe at home. So just asking people to pack their patience and pack their mask, to bring it with them, and we'll all get along well. But
sounds good. Busy
few weeks up here, as you can imagine. So really hoping the football season comes back the way that it could be impactful. I've heard operational discussions from anywhere to 20% capacity, 50% capacity, not going to be 100% capacity likely to start the year. So, I mean, you start talking about 20% capacity at a football game, that's like a bake sale. That's like a 2-year-old birthday party that we can get invited to. I mean, you got
could probably even get
enough
water.
Candles. You don't even have to hire the fire marshal to come in and check that out. Oh man, but yeah, we'll see. It'll be an interesting summer to see how some of that goes. So, all right, let's get into it. I know we're doing this at night, so Brown's bedtime's coming up here. Got those Cheers reruns to watch. All right, so we'll go to it. We'll go ahead and give the sponsor nod. I don't know. I feel bad for Soulsby's now because they get no bling, they get no love.
Can't play without your attachment.
You can't play without your bucket. Brownie.
It's a banquet beer.
Thank you very much. All right. So we can officially get into this. This might be my favorite graphic of the entire episode. This is Yard by Steve, but inspired by Brian. Take us through the yard. Is this the side yard, the backyard? What yard are we in here?
It's the backyard, and I wish I had the telestrator.
Oh, I got it, brother.
Back over there behind the wheelbarrow, you see a little rose bush behind the wheelbarrow.
We're going kind of. Oh. Time out.
Yeah,
Gotta get us back upright. Okay, so we're focusing on this area right here.
correct. Now, on the other side of the walkway, there was a really nice rose bush about the same size.
Kind of right in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Teresa, before she left to go to work, and I was going to spray the yard, she said, "Do not spray if it's windy." Well, that's like telling Tiger not to hit the draw on par five at Augusta. So I got the old weed eater mix two. I mean, it was potent and had a little bit of breeze. And I was kind of aiming for the fade, and the side wind came in, and needless to say, about 2 weeks later, the rose bush was done.
Wow.
That's been the whole conversation here about the last 2 weeks.
So I was wondering if maybe I'm not sure. I haven't been to the yard to know this for absolute sure.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if maybe this was the area back over here that you killed earlier this year.
That caught some flack. As Randy said, that caught some strafing.
Oh man!
I have a question. Are either you or Teresa practicing in the hair care industry?
In the what?
The hair care industry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at all those little round bushes. I wondered if you go out and practice with, a pair of scissors and some clippers and stuff to get the perfect shape. I mean,
Yes.
those all look like little heads back there.
Some of them look like they got a fade cut on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wondered if that was part of the correspondence course or not.
Oh man! Wow. I like the variety of the birdhouses here. I think we got like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I got a good story for you there. That little middle one there, the little middle birdhouse. Yeah, that's it right there.
All right.
Well,
Couldn't circle that.
yeah, I was eating breakfast one day, get to the sink to put up my dishes, and I see a big snake about 4 or 5 foot going in to go get the birds. I just took off to the garage, got the shovel, and had me a little batting practice on the snake.
Oh, man.
Get a little adrenaline going. I beat that poor snake to death.
What kind of snake was it?
I think it was a black snake, which is not what you're supposed to kill, but it was killing my birds. You can't play with that, your birds.
You are like Steve Irwin over there. Forget Steve Brown, man. You're protected. You got nature in all kinds of scenarios. I want to know what kind of drop off you got over here. Is this this little creek right here get up in the higher rain times?
No, it's pretty good drop off that little rock wall there.
Isn't that the moat that surrounds your house?
It's the moat.
You got some gators in there?
All right, I only got one more question because I love how we're critical of people's backyards. We just crush their backyards. What do you got going on right here? Is that a bird bath on top of another like yard table? What's going on there?
I think that's a double stack, and I think when I took that picture, I think Miss Teresa has rearranged that to make it more symmetrical.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'd hope, because a good wind will take that down.
I like the double stack at Stack's Grill there in Greenville, South Carolina. That was one of our one of our road trip places to go eat breakfast, and the double stack of blueberry pancakes, very reminiscent of the bird bath scenario right there.
That's right.
So,
Brown, I've got to give you some credit here. I'll tell you what. Go back to that very first picture of Yards by Brian,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like this one. This is, this looks homey. This doesn't look, like it's a show place. It looks like something you live in.
Yeah.
And you guys have affected me so badly. I actually had a tree trimming company at my house today, giving me an estimate to come out next week and trim the trees in front because
watch
it's so
it. That's my inheritance. That's not my inheritance. Well, I'll bring over the axe later.
Well, your inheritance is going to be minus a few tree branches next week.
As I'm wondering if we can't put a putting green kind of back over in this area right here. I got to feel like this is a loft wedge back into the back, kind of a tucked pin placement up here against the Caculia here in the back. I think that'd be a good.
Actually, back over what you're talking about, David, Christopher was working at the golf course, and they redid their practice range, their mats, and he had a couple of mats back over there for a while. And you really get some good deals on eBay. Get about 600 range balls for about $60, and you just beat them into the woods.
That's what this is. It's not a pebble rockway. That's actually just range balls. Nice. Nice. All right. Well, I think we're done with your yard now, but you tell Teresa that none of that is meant at her. It's all
Oh,
about you. But thanks for bringing that up. And I'm glad to know, very glad to know that Brian has inspired you to have the green thumb that you do. I know that that's a great relationship that the two of you had, and I'm sure he'll be proud to see that. Maybe that, I tell you what, I mean, go back and look at that for just 1 second before we move on in the program here, because um, that might be why the hat is gone, because I mean all the work that's gone into that, you probably sweat right through that thing. So
that's why
we'll give it to
all the hats.
Soulsby's. I think there's been some attachments used in the making of this
Didn't
pack.
send you on the hats, those Bogart hats.
Well, and now I know too, with all of the work that you do out there, why you have to stay so hydrated.
That's
No
true.
doubt. Like the Sahara back there.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Well, moving on. So we got some archival stories. Brownie's gonna give us some look back in the day here. What you got for us? We got Cheetos this week.
Cheetos, this goes back when I was fortunate to go back and coach with Sparky and his crew back in 86 and 87. We talked about what a good job that staff did recruiting. We had a kid named Jimmy Snowden, and I think Jimmy's from Virginia, and Jimmy was about 6'3", 6'4", and his actual best playing weight was about 285. Well, he had great feet, and he was real athletic, had long arms, but he had a tendency to get up to about 340. And so
That's a swing right there, Coach.
yeah, so Chip Sigmund was our strength coach, did a great job for us.
Yep.
And so Chip was tasked by Coach Woods. He had 2 or 3 guys that were kind of on weight control. And so every staff meeting we'd have, of course, the kids were weighed before and after practice. And in the off season, it was real important during the winter workouts and all that the kids were watching their weight and eating correctly. And back in the training table, Chip would get with the lunchroom ladies and nutritionists and say, hey, lean meats, vegetables for these guys. Certain guys were kind of told not to have double desserts and, that kind of stuff. So Chip was giving us a report in a staff meeting. Had a staff meeting, if I remember correctly, it was either 9 and 10 o'clock every morning. So, it was during the off season, and so Chip was going over the kids and the workouts, and everybody had, who was benching what, who was squatting what, and going over all the conditioning stuff too. And then we got to the weight control when you had guys too trying to bulk up. A guy that may be playing linebacker 205, trying to get him 215 or 220, keep his speed and flexibility. So Chip was going over all that. Chip did a great job, and about probably 15 in the room, and you never knew when Sparky was going to kind of snap on you. I mean, he always had that little, you just never knew. So he was going over the weight control guys, and he said, and Sparky said, well, Chip, how about Jimmy Snowden? How's Jimmy doing? And he said, Coach, he's doing really good. He's eating a lot of lean meats, and the lunchroom lady says he's not on any desserts, and we're trying to control, what the guys bring back to Justice, and I think he's doing really good. And Sparky said, well, was he up in weight a little bit? And he said, well, yeah, the last 2 or 3 days he's gained a couple pounds. And Sparky, I'll never forget, he had that hat, and he did his hat down. He said, I'll tell you why, Chip. I was coming up the hill by Justice. He had a damn big ass bag of Cheetos. And it was all we could do not to lose it. He turned red. Coach, I'll get on Jimmy, make sure we try to control that. Just the timing of it.
Oh my gosh.
Old Sparky did that hat down. He said, Chip, had a big ass bag of Cheetos.
So when he went to practice, did they look at his fingers to see if they were still orange?
For about the next 60 days, the joke of the day was, everybody called everybody Cheeto Boy.
Chip Sigmund had quite the career, didn't he?
He did. He really did. And, he was at North Carolina for a while. I think he was there when Jordan and the guys were there. And then he came up there to App for a while, and then went to the NBA for a while. And now he's doing some stuff for Europa Sports. And I always stay in contact with Chip. He's a solid guy.
Yeah, Chip. I noticed when the Last Dance stuff was going on, he put some messages on social media about being around MJ at North Carolina, and I guess he ran into him some. I guess Chip was with the Hornets
Yes. Yeah.
back before Jordan bought him, and was talking about how they'd run into him, and they played him in that playoff series that Jordan punked B.J. Armstrong so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was neat to see that that there's a guy from App that made that meteoric rise like that. There have been a lot of athletic trainers and strength trainers in the day that have gone on to big things. I know there's a guy that worked with the baseball team back years ago when Jim Morris was coaching that ended up as the strength coach of the Braves for quite some time.
And you had Rod Walters was there. He was there.
Yep.
When I was there as a player. He came through the ranks there, worked under Doc Canoy, then he left to go to Lenoir-Rhyne, came back to Appalachian Sparky, and then, of course, went to South Carolina Sparky. So he's got his doctorate now, and Rod's been real successful. He's one of the leading guys on concussions these days.
Yep. How about that? Well, what else you got? You got another one for us too, don't you?
Yeah.
You got I'm glad you're not breaking the bank on these art supplies. Coal miner Joe.
Coal miner Joe.
Did you write that in a day planner?
Yes, that's right. hey, I'm on the road, so I'm out of sheet paper.
Can't use toilet paper for that either in these COVID days, man. You gotta.
That's
gotta
right.
ration that stuff.
But this story is back from the mid-'70s, early to mid-'70s, and I got it from Robbie Kirkpatrick. He and I were talking about how recruiting has come so far and how the budget has changed. And you always go back and talk about, John Thomas. I've always said that to you, David and Randy, about John Thomas, the chancellor back then, deserves a lot of credit for Coach Brakefield left, Coach Working came in, and they had to put some emphasis and raise more money for football. And John Thomas was the guy that made that happen, and that started with more money and putting emphasis on it and hiring Mac Brown and Jim Garner as athletic director. Well, anyway, Robbie started talking about the story, and I could not stop laughing. I hope I can justify it by telling it like he told me. But anyway, back in the day, and I talked to him about, when I went up there, basically Robbie Price was a quarterback, Emmett Hamilton, Devon Ford were from Goldsboro. So I've always said, without those three guys having the success, and all three of those guys are Hall of Fame with me, that those guys paved the way for me, because without those guys, I don't think I'd be at Appalachian. And here's why. Coach Ward came to see me practice one time, and it was basically an off-season workout. It wasn't even in the fall. It was in the spring. And my football coach said, go out and throw with some receivers, and the guy's going to be in the car looking at you across the street from Appalachian. And we went out and had a little workout in the practice field. And then we had a pretty good senior year. But the way I got my scholarship offer, I basically got the papers in the mail, signed them. Back then, didn't have fax machines. You just mailed it back to Coach Brakefield and the staff, and that's how you get your scholarship. So Robbie's telling me a story about, and this is kind of telling the back end of the story before it hit the front end. But he's talking about, the coach is talking about they were watching some tape. And back in the day, you had 16 millimeter film, and you had the projectors going. And anyway, they were watching the film. There were a couple of schools playing for West Virginia, and this guy was killing people. And number 55, he's about 6'2". They think he's 6'2", and about 215, but he can run, and he's killing people. Hey, we got to have this guy. We got to have this guy. So anyway, Coach Ward at the time, Bob Ward, who ended up recruiting me after Buddy Sasser left, says, I'm going to call the coach and send a scholarship offer. Well, get the papers back. So they're in fall practice. They think they got this guy, 6'2", 215. The guy shows up, and they he's not as big as he thought. We thought he was on film. He's about 5'10", instead of 225, where he's about 250. And they're trying to play him at linebacker, and then he can't play at linebacker. They try to put him down there at defensive tackle, and he's getting killed. And so now the coaches at that time, if you remember, guys, that time it was a 4-year scholarship. You couldn't cut anybody or let anybody go or not renew anybody's scholarship. You signed one, you were stuck with them for 4 years. So they're all trying to beat this guy up in practice, trying to get him to quit. And just taking him down, doing sled work. And doing 2-on-1 drills, Oklahoma drills and all. And so finally Coach Brakefield loses it on Coach Ward during practice, like, where did we get this guy? And Bob Ward's like, Coach, they sent us the wrong player. They sent us the wrong player. But what happened is the paperwork got up there for David Jackson, and Steve Brown got the scholarship. They didn't sign the guy they saw on film. And so Robbie said the guy was they're trying to make him so miserable. They said they can't run him off. And they said, Joe, why don't you go back to the house? He said, man, I'm from West Virginia. My granddaddy's got black lung. My daddy's in the coal mines. I got it made right here. I got a warm bed. I eat 3 squares a day. They can do whatever they can do to me. I ain't leaving. That was Coal Miner Joe.
Coal Miner Joe.
So was he there the whole 4 years?
Oh, yeah. You couldn't blow him away with a stick of dynamite. And that stuff, there's no telling how many times that happened back in the day. I mean,
wow.
That's great.
That is interesting.
So Coach Ward's getting chewed out. He said, Coach, they sent me the wrong guy.
Did he ever play? I mean, did it No. No, we're talking like up 60 to the Rock on homecoming, and he might get in on special teams.
And another good Robbie story real quick. He said they're playing South Carolina, and he said this guy runs out there. This guy's about 5'8", weighs about 185, playing fullback. He said he's run a scout team for 2 years. He said he's terrible. He's a good guy, but he's terrible. And Robbie said they get out there and look up in the huddle. I can't remember the guy's name. Let's say he's Larry. He said, Larry, what are you doing out here? He said, I'm starting. He said, oh, my God, you're starting.
Oh, my God.
Now, when that happened with that kid that they got the wrong guy, how many scholarships did they have them?
That's how this all started, because somebody called and asked me about back when we signed. We signed 30 kids my freshman year, and I was actually number 30. I've told that story before. But anyway, we signed 30, but back in the day, I'm thinking, Randy, that it was around 62, but I'm not sure back in those days, because we signed 30, but the time we graduated, there's only about 7 of us left. So that wasn't a very good sign. You lost 23 and only 7 graduated. You had guys quit, you had guys flunk out, you had guys just that went home. So,
well, you could break them up a little bit different than you can now, right?
That's what somebody asked me. Were all 30 guys? As far as I knew, David, I didn't know anybody that was not on full scholarship. But we get after practice, and you'd have 5, 6, 7 guys in everybody's room just killing time before school started. You got a lot of free time before classes started. We'd all talk about where we came from and what we did in high school and this and that. But everybody, it'd kind of get around, hey, you on full ride? Because back then you had basically, it was like a pass card, and I forgot what it's called. It was basically a validated receipt. If you had one of those, you got your books, you got your meals, and you're basically considered on full ride. So, you'd always ask everybody if they had that, and you kind of figured out. And I didn't know of anybody that signed as a freshman with me that was not on full scholarship.
And when you guys were sitting in those little, gatherings and telling stories about your family life and all that, did you tell them that your big dream in life was to have a yard like Brian someday?
I used to tell my dad, I can't wait to make some money. I'm going to concrete my damn yard. Oh, man.
Wow. So I want to ask a question on the scholarship part of it. So, now, you got maybe 20, 22, 23 spots a year, give or take, right? So they'll offer 100 kids those 23 spots, and it becomes kind of a who goes where, and you very the early signing period has actually helped schools like that be able to hold on to those kids longer, so they don't get a bunch of offers and then kind of play them against each other. But that couldn't have existed if it's just it almost sounds like it's like a first come first serve. I'm going to send you these papers, and if you're the first quarterback to get it back to me, you're going to be our quarterback.
Well, when Coach Brakefield, and at the time Buddy Sasser recruited me, he leaves, and I think he went to Wofford, and Coach Ward started recruiting me. When they called me up and basically offered me a scholarship, I went to go see a ball game with my parents instead of Continuing Ed Center, and we had our little official meeting with Coach Brakefield, and he offered me a scholarship. And he said, I'm going to go and tell you, if you don't take it, we got to offer somebody else because we got to sign. At that time, not knowing what was going on, I thought I was the only quarterback that was going to sign. I get to the first meeting, there's 5 of us. But but you're right. It was like a stack game. If number 1 didn't take it, number 2 got it. Number 2 didn't take it, you go to number 3. So and that's actually, I was talking to Brad Lowen this week, who had a very good career. Coached with Sparky, went to South Carolina, coached at Florida State.
Was at North Carolina for a while too.
North Carolina with Mac Brown, also with Nick Saban at Michigan State. They coached a lot of great kids. Coached Jadavian Clowney at South Carolina. And I'm telling you, he was a great defensive line coach. We had some players back in those days. And I asked him the other day, I was talking with him, I said, how do we get some of the guys we got from Florida and Georgia? And he started telling me some stories. I mean, you and I talked about Derek Graham, who played 9 years in the league. And I said, how did we get, they call him Big Sexy. How did we get Big Sexy? He said, let me tell you the story on that. He said, Florida State had told him, Florida State, I believe he said, had 4 or 5 Saturday recruiting days. And they told Derek they were going to bring him in the last Saturday, and they promised him a scholarship. Well, just like you said, David, they may have had 8 guys they're targeting, and Derek may have been 7 or 8, and they're thinking they're not going to get the first 5 or 6. Well, back in those days, Florida State was getting everybody they wanted. So next thing you know,
right,
the high school coach called Brad and said, I think Florida State is getting nervous about not having a spot for Derek. So, of course, Brad said Florida State called and broke his heart and said, we don't have a spot for you. So Brad had stayed on him, and Western Kentucky had stayed on him. And he ended up signing with Appalachian because, I mean, that guy was 6'6", had great feet.
Oh, yeah. He looks like he could play now.
I remember getting there back in 86 and 87. I left in 80, and I'm looking at the offensive defensive lines that they've got now versus what I played with. I was like, man, this place has changed in 5 or 6 years. I mean, they were getting some kids that were unbelievably talented, and I couldn't figure out why they weren't going to other schools. But back in the day, too, you got to remember that a lot of the schools in Georgia and Florida, that recruiting footprint, so to speak, there's more schools with more money to offer now in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina than there was back in the day.
Yeah. Interesting. That's interesting. I tell you what, man, you get Beasley's name in Sports Illustrated, you can get anybody to come to App. I mean, I'm sure that's what it was. I'm sure Big Sexy was like, oh, App State, yeah, they got that great receiver.
Hey, the big deal for us, we got in Southern Living one time. My mom thought that was great.
In Southern Living?
Oh, yeah, in Southern Living.
Were you a Southern Living All-American? It looks like you were from your yard picture back there.
Yeah.
I want to be agriculture world All-American.
You are first team all Scott Sturf builder, brother, without question. All right, so we're going to move on to one of your finer moments. This might have put you in the Hall of Fame as a broadcaster. So I got to tell you, we got this one by request this week. So we've been going back and doing some of these old vintage plays and everything, and so I'm going to give you all a guess. I'm going to give you a guess. Who might have emailed us asking for a specific play? I don't think I'm going to have to give you more than 2 guesses.
See what?
This is somebody that we communicated with frequently back in the day.
See anybody that brought us food before?
I don't think he brought us food. However, he was definitely in the booth at one point.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I gotta reset the old share.
Stop there, buddy. It's like I'm on Jeopardy.
Tim Copeland.
Bingo.
Really?
Yes.
How about that?
Tim Copeland sent me an email this morning, and he was like, hey, I know you guys are getting ready to record. I want to see the Harry Houdini play. I'm like, Tim, we've been obliging you for years. Why stop now? So George Claiborne, the video coordinator for the football team, he was working on a project not long ago, and this play came up. It is available on the internet. Y'all can see this, right? I want to make sure I get the audio part of this correct so everybody can hear it. So yeah, he was working on this project, and I was like, hey man, understand you've got that Armani play. Can I have it? And he's like, sure. So George, we're scooping you. You were hoping to get this out first, but this was 2009 against the Samford Bulldogs, and you'll probably remember the play.
And shotgun snap comes. Here comes the blitz. Armanti stands in the pocket, rolls off of pressure, keeping his balance, loses the football, scoops it back up, still on his feet, throws the ball out to the edge to Baker. He's got the football inside the 30, 29, fighting off tacklers to the 23. What a play for a Mountaineer first down.
Nintendo meet Harry Houdini.
Oh,
The great
God.
thing is if you go and Google Nintendo Meet Harry Houdini, there are at least, I think there were 3, and one of them was a Montana playoff game that year. There are 3 different articles that I found that reference that phrase. It was the number 2 play on SportsCenter's top 10 that week, just with the miraculous stuff that he did on the regular back then. He was the number 2 play on SportsCenter, and Nintendo Meet Harry Houdini made the rounds. So
Man, it is just so much fun to watch those plays again. And that was just so typical of him. You could set up a reel and sit here, half the day and watch those things, but that's fantastic.
We talked about Sean Elliott, and he and I would talk about, man, you guys did a great job last week. He said, when you got 14 back there, you ain't got to block them all and just kind of grin. But you look there, if you were looking at that play and break it down, they got a free blitzer coming. Did a great job of scheming it up. Armanti sidesteps him, jukes him. He had 2 or 3 guys. He loses the ball. It bounces kind of backwards. And they got 2 or 3 chances to grab him. He just gets it, going down, throws a screen pass to Baker, and gained about 20 yards on it.
yeah.
I mean, Pat Sullivan's got to be over there going, this is ridiculous.
Brownie, with you, you've played that position before, and I didn't get to see you play in person. I did get to watch Armanti.
I wasn't alive then.
An awful lot. Yeah, that's right. But I guess my question is, for a guy in that position, and since you were there, what's the field of vision must be like? I mean, it seems like no matter what situation he was in, he had such a great awareness of what was happening around him.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't – I just don't think you see a whole lot of quarterbacks, surely the top ones. But, I mean, in most of college athletics today and all the teams that are out there, you just don't see that skill very much with that depth of awareness.
Well, his ability to throw the ball, I mean, he kind of had a whip action with that arm. He was so strong. And he was a lot stronger than he looked. I mean, he was always kind of thin. And I remember he came back about a year after. I don't know if you remember, David. He came up in the press box. He had a little bit of biceps on him, and I grabbed him and said, "Man, you bulking up on?" He said, "Yeah." He had about 12 pounds of muscle, but when he played there, he was kind of wispy thin, but he was strong when he looked. But like you said last week, Randy, his coolness under pressure and just his attitude and it's kind of his personality. I always felt like you had other guys, including myself, that weren't great practice players. I felt like I was a better game player. I always felt I liked to play under the lights. I like, you got a little bit better when people were chasing you around, and it just made you speed up and you had so much adrenaline for the game time. But I remember watching him one in practice. He did the same kind of things in practice.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was a great practice player. And I think the what we did offensively really it fit him so well. And then to go in the NFL, Canadian League, and play wide receiver, that showed his athletic ability. But he made so many plays that you just scratch your head, as we talked about time and time again.
I thought that play that year. You remember we got off to a bad, kind of a shaky start. He had the foot injury. And so he didn't play the first 2 weeks. We went 0-2. We had that chance. That was another one of your great lines, the good ship lollipop down there at East Carolina, where we almost beat them down there at ECU. And then we had lost to McNeese at home in the first game with the new renovations done. And that team, for as good as that team was, and I put that 09 team up against 05, 6, and 7 any day. I think they were that caliber of team and nearly played themselves right back into the championship game. But they did not start well. And I remember there being just kind of this general feeling of like, kind of slugging through, And that play in that game was the first time that I thought, this is us. There's the rabbit's foot that we pull out time and again to beat people that they go, I can't believe we lost to them. It's because of stuff like that. And that was the first flex of that muscle that we saw that year. And then we took off at that point. After that game, Sanford was decent that year, if I remember right. And we just went gangbusters right after that and ended up just blasting people just like the good old days. And Armanti was healthier. And we got some great play out of some of the younger guys. And Cedric Baker had a nice little complimentary year in there as well. It was a heck of a team to watch compete.
Who was the wide receiver? It may have been that year, maybe not. We had a wide receiver that was playing on the defensive outside linebacker, and he just got switched over to a wide receiver.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. I can see him right now.
Yeah. I mean, he had a big body, and he just went up and
great hands.
And just dominated in jump ball situations. And I thought he had really
that's gonna bug the crap out of me.
That was a good move to him to go to wide receiver.
Yeah.
I thought that year you got off to the start because of the injuries, but that was the year that I felt like we almost expected to roll out of there and just dominate people like we've done before. And I thought we kind of took everything for granted there early part of the year. And I think Coach Moore and that staff did a great job of turning that attitude around and playing tougher down the stretch.
William Mayfield was that receiver.
That's it. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. That team was, and it was kind of that weird year too, because 08, that team was good, undefeated there for a while, and parked it in the playoffs late, or parked it in the playoffs early. Matt Caesar came up and dashed those hopes, and it felt like that team left a little bit meat on the bone. And then the 09 team felt like they came out of the gate and we're just going to pick up where that team left off. And there was a little bit of a learning curve. I remember Jacques Roman being a very vocal piece of the rebuild of the 0-2 that ended up turning that into a national semifinalist. And I mean, again, you're a player or two away from that team being back at the national championship game. And I swear, I think they win the national title if they get back to Chattanooga in 09. I don't think you deny Armanti Edwards in that stage at that time. And he nearly willed him. I mean, he willed him to the Richmond win. He nearly willed him to the Montana win all by himself.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Crazy stuff, man. Harry Houdini. I don't know what else we can pull out. We got some good ones. I'm trying to think of you had like a top 10 list of all time like single drops. Like Harry Houdini was one of those. The putting for the Masters was another one.
I like the back summy.
The backwards. We kick off to him one more time. I'm coming off here in a backwards summy.
Remember the time we had, what was it that I was dinging people out of the press box with? That was
M&Ms or something.
M&Ms?
Man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I remember as Brownie would.
Right, what's his kind of blue coat, Dave? He turned around trying to fight somebody 2 rows behind him.
Oh man, you would not be afraid. Avery Hall was the same way. He'd not be afraid to mix it up with the people in the stands. I remember we were at Wofford one year, and we were getting this must have been, let's see, we beat him down there in '99. Must have been 03. I think it was 03. We went down there. It was the year after we beat them in the crazy, or the year after Miracle on the Mountain. And then we lost to Wofford the next week, and then we lost to him again the next year. And Avery was at that stadium there, at Richardson Stadium or whatever they call it.
In Booth, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, and you're about 10 feet above the crowd. and it's you could reach out and touch someone real quickly, and I thought Avery was going to. He was so upset because this guy turned around and they were woodshedding us at the beginning of the game, if I remember right. And I remember him on the air like tapping me on the shoulder. He goes, Dave, this guy's talking to me down here. I was like, oh Lord, here we go. So yep. You had some moments with the fans in the stands. There's something about
that got to have been really good to saw Avery step out of the booth. It's like, I'm good.
Yeah. I think you would have thought twice about that. It was nice rolling with Avery because I never had to worry about my safety at all. He had us covered.
I used to love going to Wofford.
You are the only one.
Well, there were not many people there. It was really easy to get around.
Right.
I think the median age of the spectator there was like 67.
You always have liked a good library. So
yeah, I mean it was it was easy to maneuver through there.
Man, hottest game ever down there was that was in the like 06, 08 range or something like that too, man. There were people there were some people that went to that game, and there were only like 4 of them that also went to that East Carolina game in 12, and they said that the Wofford game and whatever year that was and the East Carolina game in 12 were the 2 hottest App State football games.
We played Citadel one year. Remember they were redoing the stadium and had us on.
Oh yeah, that was 05. That was the first national championship year. I remember I had a towel like Jerry Tarkanian, and that thing was soaked through. I had to wring it out a couple times because we were in a temporary press box on the east side of the field, so the sun was beating in on us the whole entire time. Yeah. It had to be about 92 degrees, and we absolutely wore them out. I remember my man Steve Baer walking up because they had the media room was down underneath the stadium, and Steve Baer comes walking up with 2 pieces of pizza, and I looked at him when he walked in. He looks like he's about to pass out anyway, and I was like, Lou, I used to call him Lou because he looked like Lou Brown from Major League. So anytime we ever saw him, we'd call him Lou. I said, Lou, I think your cheese melted again. He's like, David, this is the hottest place I think I've ever been.
I can't imagine anything being hotter than that East Carolina deal.
That's smoking.
That was crazy.
Well, I tell you what's hotter than that is those hats. They are contraband goods right now. They are on the lam somewhere. So as soon as we find those.
Bezos.
Look at this guy.
Hats.
I actually thought you got a phone call. Yeah, that wouldn't be unlikely. Hey, let me call you right back.
How about the time me and you and Lanny and somebody else go play golf at Boone Golf Club? And I took about 27 phone calls during the round. Played the best round I've ever played.
He actually sets his phone down. I don't even know if you put the dude on speakerphone. Sets his phone down on the green, sinks about a 15-foot putt, picks up the phone like it was just any other day. I mean, this thing is breaking left, right, up, down, and Lanny and I are just like, it's like playing with Southern Belle. It really was. It was big time. Oh, man. Big time. Well, boys, I guess that'll do it for episode 8 here. Good material.
Bye-bye, friends.
Make sure you stretch now. You can't just hydrate. You got to do the whole thing.
And no backward summies tonight.
Yeah. Yep. Although if you're gonna get into the backward summies again, I'd suggest Pilates.
Don't do it in the backyard. You may hit one of those cactus bushes.
What kind of icing was on the cupcakes today?
Well, we had a little. My stepdaughter is gluten and dairy free, so those were really good.
Oh my!
Mushroom pizza. There's a lot of choices there. A lot of choices.
So she's dairy free, no ice cream at the thing.
Yeah, Bridget can only have sorbet.
How do you have? Did you have sorbet?
No,
How do you have a birthday party with no ice cream?
Well, Randy, you can't have it all. I mean, come on. Wait a minute. Bezos, where's the ice cream?
Oh man. Well, I hope the cornflake cupcakes went well, and we'll send you some. It reminds me of my breakfast order back in the day. I know Sparks will say it. I used to get, what was it?
Dry wheat toast.
Waffle and wheat toast with no butter on it. He's like, man, that's the driest breakfast I've ever seen. Oh man, yeah, I'd have to choke that thing down with a glass of orange juice about the size of my head. But anyway, all right, boys. Well, we'll be back at it again for Randy Jackson on the Mass General Store sideline, Hall of Famer and hat aficionado Steve Brown. David Jackson saying, "Good night. Enjoy the quarantine."
Later.